Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Exploring Glorantha. My name is JM, and with me, as always, is the estimable Lancor My Scholar, Evan. Evan, thanks for joining us again today. So today we're gonna be talking about this is the last one we're gonna do for a while. I know everybody is excited for us to get into um, continue our discussion of the chronological exploration of Glorantha, going into the Second Age, but we're just so excited about these books, and so we're gonna cover Earth Goddess. We're gonna do a review of the Earth Goddesses. Technically, book four, I think, book three or four, depending on whether Prosopadia is at the end or book two. But there has been some exciting news. But first, let me just say, if you want to know more about the Earth Goddesses, you can always go check out episode 9 of Exploring Glorantha, where we have our discussion of the Earth Pantheon. But Evan, always keen to scour the internet for any news of Glorantha. Uh,
Yep.
you want to share what Jeff reported? Also,
Well,
Ian Cooper was at Dragon Meet and said that we should be seeing the PDF for Quest Worlds either this month or early next month, which
oh,
probably means we're going to see a Quest Worlds version of Glorantha, hopefully, at some point in the future.
yeah, no, definitely. And I had the great good fortune of doing a game with Ian at Chaosium Con earlier this year, and y- and he, they have a draft of the Glorantha supplement, but Quest Worlds is very much going to be a sort of generic um, storytelling, application for with lots of different sort of modules to do lots of different genres. So that's very
Kind of
exciting.
like how they put out basic role
Yeah,
play. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's the more story driven sort of version of that. Um, and that's exciting. But the other information, which I I used to be able to keep up and read everything that Jeff Richards post or that got posted about stuff that he said, and I've been following down on that a little bit. There's just been a lot going on, but I did catch this that fired.
That's right.
No,
No, never.
um, that he was at Dragon Meet in the UK this weekend, while Rick and others were at PAX Unplugged up
Hmm.
in Philly. And at one of the discussions, he did make clear that the Lunar Way volume of Cults of Runequest is currently at the printers. It will be definitely the next volume that's coming out. Um, again, pretty much expected in the first quarter of 2024. And that another next book, non-Cults of RuneQuest, that's coming out is the Dragon Pass book, or a book centered on Dragon Pass issues, which is not surprising. Again, building off of the core uh, publications
And we've
that
been
have
waiting for
been.
that book for a while. Like
Yeah,
that's been
yeah,
announced. That was announced, I think, when the original
yeah,
RuneQuest Adventures in Glorantha was.
yeah. Well, again, no supplement before its time,
Yep.
sort of. And in the meantime, lots coming out from the Johnstown
Hmm.
Compendium. And the other thing that I didn't put in the notes, but that I saw, was that the possibility that some of the materials that have been published on Johnstown Compendium may be adopted as official Chaosium um, sanctioned supplements. Essentially, that they're not, your Glorantha may vary interpretations, but are going to be brought in as the way that Chaosium sees it. So um, they did not tip their hand as to what
I
those
was
would
just gonna
be, but
ask.
you can think about, like, for example, um, the new Notchet book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the author of that book also did sort of the official maps that have been on the Well of Daliath for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So he's very, he's been very on the inside and understanding that great city, the metropolis as it exists in the Third Age, at the cusp of the Hero Wars. And so,
I need to get a physical
some,
copy of that one. Like
yeah, some,
that's
and he just released a player facing supplement about Notchet as well, so that you know, and apparently, although there is some overlap, it is substantially um, a different work. There are a few things repeated apparently, but a lot of new information that's the player facing. So, you know, just churning out incredibly interesting and useful things. And I would anticipate that something like that, someone who has been, sort of an insider outsider,
mm-hmm.
and really worked to develop the material, may get adopted, whether it will be Notchet or Edge of the Empire, which is also by that same author, Harold, or other things like the sort of magisterial works by the armies and enemies of Dragon
I was gonna say
Pass.
like that Mark is done, right?
Um, um,
Mark?
it's not Mark.
No. Hold on
Martin.
again.
Martin.
Martin. That's what I meant.
Yeah, that's what we meant.
That's what we meant. We're not going to
Well,
edit this, but that's what we meant. Um, I have to. Yeah.
anyway, those things, those really meticulous works, could be adopted. I'm speculating. I have no idea, but it's exciting. It's exciting to
It
see
really is.
that, and then those are things that that have been taken care of. Chaosium doesn't have to push towards those. They can, and sort of uh, revisiting those areas. They're taken care of, and that's an exciting development out of the JC too.
Yeah.
That it is not just a place that develops authors and artists, which it has been, but that may result in the development of sort of central parts of the world that will
Yeah.
be adopted into the wonderful tapestry that we all love, that is Glorantha.
Well, to whoever is on that track, congratulations. Like that's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Well done.
Well, let's get into our look and review of the Earth Goddesses. Now, one of the things that I think I've mentioned before with Lightbringer is there's a little, like, not a lot, but there is some overlap between Lightbringers and Earth Goddesses. And again, I'm just going to say that at first that needled me until I realized, again, kind of the focus of these books is the fact that if you're playing on, an Earth cultist, you don't need to refer to the Lightbringer book. It has everything that you need kind of encapsulated. And especially with them expanding this from 1 to 2 to 3 to 11 Z's is kind of, I think, where we're at. Um, I think that's wise because as the more and more volumes were kind of plotted out for the series, having a little bit of redundant information makes each book that much more useful as opposed to, as a standalone volume.
Yeah, you don't have to take the whole library with you to and cross-reference it. You have certain essential repeated information
Mm-hmm.
that is on hand, and you can just take the books you need.
So after the Lightbringer cults, this is probably the most important cult book for any of us playing in Dragon Pass. It is one of the dominant pantheons, not just of Gennertella, but like the world. And Evan, you had a poem in here,
Yeah.
and do you want to recite the poem?
I do want to go through it. I think that it sort of sets the tone for the heart of the information.
Now, I will just say, for those of you who are used to the very reserved and scholarly Evan, we recorded our episode of the iconic podcast the night before. And if you don't follow our Arcana podcast, we're doing a 13th Age actual play, and Evan is playing Harrier. See, I got it right this time. When we're not playing, I can get it. I can get right every time. The paladin of the Empire, who also has been trained in bard, has a bardic training, and busted out a song for his Song of Heroes last night that was just epic. So if you're looking, episode 10 or 11 or 12, I'm not sure where exactly it's going to hit, but has just this wonderful song that Evan shared with us, and now he's going to do poetry. I'm just like, he's blowing me away. This the back-to-back days of.
I'm just going to read the words on the page that
You're not going to sing it?
probably no. No,
No interpretive dance?
no, nobody came for that. Um,
We're going to get a ton of
but
comments about, I came for interpretive dance.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would expect that this likely is Greg Stafford's words. But so 3 are the bounteous goddesses of the earth. 3, the number of their dark sisters. All are mighty goddesses of earth, the makers and takers of life. The giving goddesses, grandmother, mother, and daughter. Asrelia the crone, keeper of treasures. Ernalda the mother and lover, source of life. Voria, spring's daughter, herald of the dawn. The grasping goddesses, sisters to the kindly ones. Tai Koratek, dead queen in the darkness. Marin Gore, earthshaker, source of strife. Babister Gore, bringer of vengeance. Within the earth is life, within the earth is death. Come, great green lady, resplendent with gifts, even the gods serve you. So there it is. The light and darkness, the life and death, all embodied in the earth. The focus on the feminine, the sacred feminine, both the life-giving and the destructive portions of it. And of course, that is very much the heart of this book, but there's so much more.
There's so much, and even more so than the Lightbringer book. This book gives you glimpses into the whole world of Glorantha, beyond just the focus of the Earth Cult in Dragon Pass. Because, I mean, the thing to remember is Pamalt is an Earth god, and was not slain during the Gods' War. And so we get a view of the Earth Cults, kind of a sprinkling, if you will, of those beyond kind of this central Gannertella focus, which again is kind of the focus of where, the Lightbringers are, where Orlanth reigns. Except in the north, where we're going to get that Lunar Way book. We'll still look at it, or at least I will on behind the screen, because we're going to stay focused on our exploring Glorantha. If you haven't checked out, I either have done or will do, my brain is very mushy this morning, a review of the mythology book. I know I posted a little reel about it. And this covers a lot of the mythology book is great because it gives you it's sort of the Rosetta Stone for everything else that will come. And the Earth, goddesses cult write-ups kind of follow the same format that is laid out in the mythology book, explaining why these components are so important. And we covered these a little bit in the Lightbringer review episode, but again, if you haven't looked at that because you're not interested in the Lightbringers but are here for the Earth goddesses, I'll walk you through it real quick. And as the title of the book may suggest, the male gods in the Earth pantheon are not as important or as powerful as the female, as the goddesses. I mean, the Earth pantheon is very much a feminine-dominated pantheon and cult. So the book opens up with kind of our worldview and our background, but again, kind of explains what is the point of following the Earth cult in Glorantha. Well, it answers, where does the world come from? Where do I come from? What happens after we die? Why do we die? Why am I here? Like, what's the point of humanity's existence as seen through the lens of the Earth pantheon. How is magic? Where does it come from? How do I use it? What does it mean when I invoke magic? Who are the other gods? How do they relate? And where in the world are our centers of power? And of course, you get in the midst of this the sprinkling of all of the good mechanical juicy bits that we like, we love RuneQuest for, right? What skills do you get for the cult? What are the cult benefits? What spells? And Evan just put in here, and I would echo it because that was what I more art. I cannot stress this enough. We are living in a golden age of um, Glorantha supplements. And to the point that I have a friend, Ben, who also plays in our 13th Age podcast, is like, man, these are the kind of books that if like civilization got destroyed and somebody found like JM's library, they're so beautiful and so well done and so integrated that they could be mistaken for actual cult books and being like, oh well, this is what people believed, before the apocalypse. So Evan, any thoughts to add before we jump into who is in here?
Uh, no, I think you covered it. Really, that's the uh, the overview does put you into the mindset of the earth worshiping uh, population
Mm-hmm.
and how integral it is, and the art just it pops.
I mean, it's
It
just
just yeah.
it it is beautiful. Now, I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Evan. I mean, surprise, surprise, kind of the most important goddess is Ernalda, right? The worship of Ernalda forms the center of Earth worship in Dragon Pass and kind of beyond. Right? If you go back and go back and listen to our God Time episode, Ernalda pops up everywhere. Ernalda is has links to the elves and to the Sky Pantheon, to the Storm Pantheon, and. I still think it's one of the best design choices Sandy Peterson made in the God's War board game. That the Earth Pantheon marries off these Earth priestesses, which are essentially images of Ernalda, to all the other pantheons because that's kind of what happens in God Time. Ernalda flits from husband to husband as the mood strikes her, as the need strikes her, and so she's kind of the focus because she's one of the main focuses of that worship. And I love that it has this little Pamatalan information that Ernalda is worshipped as Farinar, the wife of Palmont, kind of the mother of the chieftain dynasties in Pomalt. And I cannot stress how much of a skim we are doing of this book because the amount of information, as always, that they pack into what amounts to a 140-page book is sort of staggering. And again, these new, maybe not necessarily new to us, but definitely forgotten by me, right? If you've read through the 2-volume guide to Glorantha, I'm sure these little tidbits were sprinkled through there, but it's just so much to try and digest at any one time that this gives us a really neat reintroduction to some of these themes, these names, these places. So, Evan, a couple of other ones that stood out to you. Why don't you jump in next?
Well, I mean, the next deity in order of the book is Aldraya, and Aldraya is a daughter of Ronaldo, is linked to the earth, but is more tied to the plant rune,
Mm-hmm.
um, and um, and it opens the whole vista of sort of uh, elf society that and even more than Arnalda being at the center of most human cultures, Aldria is Aldriami society. I mean, the everything is structured in relation, and even if you don't worship Aldria as an elf, which is possible, you can become severed from uh, her worship in various ways. Sometimes you can remain a part of elf society, even having been severed, or sometimes you become you you your departure is less friendly, and you are in opposition to it, but Aldria still defines you even in your severed state. Um, and it just really goes into such detail about how uh, uh, society is structured within
Mm-hmm.
an elf forest, and how alien it is. There's a great bit which is a in world text that is taken from a something called Belentar's book. Belentar was the god king of the Holy Country, and he perpetuated his life by um, transferring his spirit to different bodies.
Mm-hmm.
That when one body became exhausted, aged and died, there was the tournament of the Masters of Luck and Death, and the winner of that became the new vessel for his spirit. And at least once, that was an elf. And so he writes in his book his experience of being an elf. And there's this quote that it's a longer little sort of short essay, but this quote, he says, "I can only remember them as gods now." So he's talking about the gods of the Aldriami, and now that he's back in a non-plant body,
Mm-hmm.
he remembers these things as gods. But from the time I was I can only remember them as gods now. From the time I was an elf, I know that I felt otherwise then, but now as a human again, I cannot remember them as except as gods. So as gods, I tell you of them. Um, but he says, the mentality is when he was an elf, he just saw these as part of the world, the forest, Aldria, everything was just one in a big pool of life. And so it gives you a narrow vista
Mm-hmm.
into this alien worldview, which hopefully we know that there is an elf supplement that is moving slowly towards the
As the
head of the
tree
queue.
grows in the forest,
That's right.
so does the elf book slowly move.
We will be waiting for a while. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it's there, and so this gives us enough to sort of to run with. When I was writing some stuff about elves, I wish I'd had more of this information. I think I had enough to be credible, but this just fills it in more. Also, just like we learned in Troll Pack, which is still available in the Glorantha Classic
Mm-hmm.
line, and I think may eventually be updated in some way. But um, in Troll Pack, we learned about how you can be adopted and become a troll. We know that Arcat did
Mm-hmm.
that. See our episodes on Arcat and the first age. Um, but apparently, you can also be adopted and become an elf. And if you thought all of the rituals that turn you into a troll were
The
horrifying,
elf rituals are horrifying.
holy moly!
Yes.
It isn't just a symbolic adoption into being an elf.
So being
So
being the evil GM that I am, the next time that I run RuneQuest, I definitely think I will dangle adoption in front of some of my players and just like I'm pretty sure Becca or Richard would bite and
yeah,
leap before they look.
and 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 all of the elves will tell you how wonderful it is to become part of the
Oh
oneness
yeah.
of the plant world, and how you'll be freed and it'll be wonderful. Oh boy.
Yeah. No spoilers
So
because we want
yeah,
you to go out and buy this book because
yeah,
it's
buy this book.
so
And
amazing.
yeah. And another interesting tidbit was from the Aldriami cosmology that it's not just Orlanth that breaks the world. It's like kind of everybody is responsible for the
Yeah.
breaking of the world in different ways. And before the world of plants became sort of balanced, they talk about how uncontrolled growth, this what seemed to be, just spreading and multiplying and diversifying, was wonderful until it wasn't, because the uncontrolled growth also cracked the universe, allowing what the Aldriami consider and understand as oblivion, which includes but is not limited to chaos entering the universe. So it really tells us a lot. It's very exciting, and there's a similar kind of description for Mostal, who is also um, from the point of view of the Earth pantheon, he is an Earth god. From the point of view of the Mastali themselves, there's
He
like,
is the Pantheon.
yeah, that's just like he's the world machine, and everything else serves it. So different perspectives. um there isn't as much new. I think it's all consolidated and organized. A lot of the information is revised and re-edited from the Glorantha source book and the bestiary, and such. But it's really helpful to have in this form, and again gives you, here is the capsule description of dwarf society.
Well, and speaking of the Gloranthan source book, I don't know if you saw this, and if you haven't, I will claim exploring Glorantha points. Did you see that they're going to re-release the source book with a new
Yes.
cover to
Mm-hmm.
match the?
a,
Nah,
a,
I
a
figured.
gorgeous new cover,
Yeah.
which they have already previewed,
Yes.
and that brings it in line with the cover art
Mm-hmm.
of the other supplements. Yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
will I be
it's
buying it?
wonderful.
Yes. Yes, I will. And hopefully, I'll do a review of that on. So, for those of you who enjoy these little, who want to know more about the Cults of Glorantha, those discussions are really going to head over to our behind the screen show on Iconic Production. And starting in January, we're going to get back into our uh, regular, more regular content. Appreciate you, Evan, kind of helming these as still doing my recovery, and appreciate to all of our fans who are bearing with us as we kind of ramp back up to speed.
Absolutely. Well, and I think starting with the first three books in the series to sort of get people started and to understand how it's unlocking things, I think helps with our exploration, shall we
I
say.
would agree. So there's a lot of Earth gods and goddesses. I don't want to go into all of it because this is a book that I really think you should pick up. We'll have links to the PDF and to the physical copies. And again, for the quality of the art and the quality of the content and the quality of the book, Chaosium's printings, the paper quality is fantastic. The bindings hold up. Um, it's only $38, which is ridiculous to me that it's kind of that cheap for everything that you get in here. But and even the back cover is just gorgeous. But I want
And
oh
don't
go ahead.
forget to mention, you get the when you buy the book from Chaosium, you get the PDF at no additional cost.
Yes, and I'd also like to point out for those of you who have never bought something from Chaosium, do so for several reasons. One, the books come remarkably well protected. Um, I don't know of another. I would say that Chaosium ships their books the best that I've ever seen. Uh, they come usually in two boxes, right? One box that has the wrapped book, and then another box for the shipping, especially if you order several books at once. But also, one thing that I love about Chaosium is that as soon as the PDF releases, you can buy the PDF, and then that acts as a coupon against the physical book when the physical book releases. So you're still not paying more for the PDF than you would if you bought the book and PDF combo at the end of it. So you can essentially pay for half the book now, and then when the physical book releases, you pay the other half and shipping, and it gets sent to you. I wish more companies did stuff like that, um, because I always love supporting Chaosium, because I know, hey, I'm going to buy this PDF, and in 3, 6, 9 months, whenever the physical book releases, they're going to email me with a coupon to get the physical book, subtract, minus the coupon is for whatever I paid for the PDF. So it's just the remainder of the book cost, which I think is just a fantastic business model.
Yeah.
Okay, enough crowing about Chaosium, which we both obviously love to do. So I really liked all of the uh, Caladra and Aurelian information. I love those, the twin goddesses, the volcano gods. There's a lot of interesting information on them. Obviously, Beast to Gore has always factored very heavily into all of the RuneQuest games that I have run. So I've really enjoyed seeing that. But one that I was not expecting to see in here, I'm gonna let Evan jump in on this. I was not expecting to see the Cult of the Bloody Tusk in the Goddesses book. Evan, do you want to expand a little bit on that for us?
Yeah. Like what the heck is this thing? We get a preview of it in the bestiary about the Tusk
The
Riders,
Tusk
who are
Riders.
these half trolls, um, and and even here, as it's described, it does not tell you how to be a player character of this cult. It very much says this is a really dark earth cult, and only it's not suitable for player characters. Um, so it's a bad guy cult. It's a non-chaotic bad guy cult, but it's very dark. So this is sort of all the worst impulses of the earth. It shows that there can be this sort of moral evil when anything is taken to extreme, even without becoming chaotic. So um, we start back with our gray age first age episode 27, talking about the hero Aram Yaudram, who is a champion of humanity, but he got mixed up with a darkness demon, and he solved a curse that Ernalda had inflicted on the world by slaying her sacred uh, uh, giant. I mean, when we're talking about giant, this is like Godzilla-sized uh, boar that was ravaging the land to punish people who had violated Ernalda's laws, and he uses the demon to help him destroy this sacred monster, and builds a great altar, the ivory plinth out of it, and he takes the power to give his followers, who then were human, to be able to ride giant boars called tuskers, and then and initially these tusk riders were sort of still a force for order and the dawn and everything, and somehow they got corrupted. And my guess is, if we got to blame things, let's blame the demon, because that sounds pretty good, but we don't really know. It's a mystery. But somehow along the way, after the hero died, things went went really bad, and the Tusk Riders got blended with the Dark Men, with the Trolls, and all the worst parts, so that blood sacrifice, torture, and just everything that's sort of antithetical to organized civilization. They're just a big gang of gangs,
Mm-hmm.
that they're like the biker gang of Glorantha, that they just roll into places. They take everything that they can get. They take prisoners, but only to sacrifice them in horrible ceremonies, and to bind their spirits into
Body parts.
servitude in body parts, either animal tails or humanoid hands.
You guys encountered. I wish I had this book when we were playing through our RuneQuest game, because you
Yeah,
guys encountered Tusk Riders, and
that's right.
it was a bad
Well,
time for all.
that's right. And there was more going on. We knew that there
Mhm.
was more going on, and hopefully we'll get back and find out what maybe we'll unlock for our Glorantha something of the mystery of the founding of this cult. But
Mhm.
so why is this here? Well, because the Earth and the Dark Earth and is foundational for the operation of the cult of the Bloody Tusk and the Tusk Riders, that they have unlocked sort of the worst excesses of that can be seen in the sort of the triple dark goddess, the goddess of the dead, Tychora Tech, the
Mhm.
goddess of the dark earth, the earth that hungers for blood, and that is destructive, that is Marin Gore, and the earth of vengeance, Babister Gore. Um, all of those things are sort of distilled down to their worst properties in this cult. So it shows sort of the range of extremes, um,
It really
and
does.
and gives you a great sort of non-chaotic bad guy, uh, and yet we also know that even the worst, most extreme, non-chaotic uh, uh, cults and beings have a place in the universe.
Mhm.
And so figuring out the role, as stands against chaos, Zaraxaran be pretty bad. Another deity that's described in here, Flamal, the god of vegetation, who sustained, sort of the food chain for everyone, and Zaraxaran killed him and ate him, which caused untold suffering during the god time. But Zaraxaran was also really good at killing chaos, and so he gets to be part of the universe, and he's in the in group, even if he's sort of on the outskirts of what people consider acceptable. In some ways, the Cult of the Bloody Tusk is even farther out, and yet they are still part of the order of the universe.
Yeah, they're another standard deviation out from center, if you will.
Yeah,
Um, so I really enjoyed all the information that they had on Pomalt. Pomalt is one of those gods that I find very interesting, right? Because Gennert was killed during the Gods' War, so that's why we have things in Gennertella that just don't work. Pomalt is not, and Pomalt really kind of fills some of the same roles in Pomatella that Orlanth fills in Dragon Pass. He's sort
yeah,
of the commoner and the male god that the society worships. It's really strange, right? Because Pomalt has this more ascendant role in the Earth cults in Pomatella than we typically see for a male deity in Gennertella. And there's just a lot of great information about that. I think we're getting a lot more fleshed out on the southern continent, and it would be interesting to run a game there someday and just let everybody know, hey, my Glorantha will vary, but I've got enough. I've got enough blocks to form a good foundation for this. But
yeah,
it also goes to show that not the Earth pantheon is no more harmonious than the Lightbringer pantheon. there are still rivalries, there are still bitter enemies. Uh, Aldraya's the Earth, or the elves and who follow Aldraya, and the humans who follow Pamalt. They are not friendly on the southern continent.
Yeah. I mean, Palmalt taught his followers how to destroy and beat back the jungle, because he is the god of the living plains,
Mm-hmm.
the space for his people to move around, to settle, to carry out their civilized lives, and the jungle is not part of that. And so,
It is not.
um, so um, although Aldraya is the would be sort of his stepdaughter, uh, um, genealogically speaking. It's it is a very opposed relationship, and I think that I'm hoping that people are going to take this information and start giving us opportunities to go to the southern continent. Um, Certainly, there were some issues of the old Tales of the Reaching Moon, um, that explored that, and I think that with this new information, some of those authors or some people inspired by those old publications may turn out some things on the Johnstown Compendium. And we already know that, with the seas reopened and the wolf pirates having circumnavigated, and Argrath having traveled with them, that both people from the southern continent are going to show up for the hero wars in Genertella, and people from Genertella are going to be attracted to this exploration and travel to faraway and exotic lands, to experience this very different part of Glorantha, and people are going to be excited about that. I think we will start to see publications. I certainly hope we will, and I hope we'll get to look at them and talk about them as they come up.
I agree. So, any final gods or goddesses that you would like to just one more to highlight before we go into our who we think this book is for?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about love, because because although she does not possess the earth rune Ularia, the goddess of love is presented, and it's because her powers, the fertility powers, are so prevalent in and dominant in the Earth pantheon that she is connected into the greater um, uh, pantheon, and the the real themes of this book. And I I found it very eye opening, because again, she's an ancient, she's the goddess, the only goddess that's identified as probably having been part of the original cosmic court that lived on the spike before it was destroyed by chaos. And um, and it's another explanation of how the world worked for Ularian philosophers. The world functions the way it does because of her power, and
Mm-hmm.
because of the power of love, and the way that it is. And so I copied some information from the cult that I think is just worth just reading out. So, love is the invisible life force energy that can fill and permeate anything physical, spiritual, or magical. It behaves in two ways. First, it brings together. Second, it seeks to reproduce itself. Unification is apparent in all nature when two bubbles of quicksilver join. This is caused by love. When leaves fall to the ground, or anything at all falls to earth, that is because the earth mother's love pulls us there. Water flows downhill to the sea because it seeks to come together with the ocean in love. Societies exist because of love, and everyone knows how the genders are attracted to one another. All these activities are motions of love through the life force. So, uh, um, and it goes on. But so the idea again of there are things that are true and there are things that are contradictory that are both true. There are things that are sort of, the overlapping. We also know that the waters, that the rivers run downhill, principally because they were summoned by Magasta to fill the hole in the world caused by the destruction of the spike, and that's one explanation. But Valeria says, well, it's even simpler than that. The waters just love
Love the ocean.
love the ocean. They have to flow to where they love. We fall to the ground not because of gravity, but because the earth loves us and calls us to her. And so I love this framing. I love.
That's right.
And
Evan's secretly an Ilaria cultist.
there we go. Hey. And the only thing I'm disappointed about in the description, which is fantastic, which fills things out, and because there is an Ularia temple, a rather unusual Ularia temple in Apple Lane. It's one of the things that for some mysterious reason that temple is there because of love. And so a lot of people are going to have interacted with that location, whether passing through, whether having become the Thane of Apple Lane, etc. So this is really important too for gameplay and the development of the campaigns that lots of people are running. But they didn't talk about the really important Ularian Center in Frenella, which I've been writing about, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll have some revelations. No. I mean, there were a lot of revelations in general about Ularia and her worship and the structure of the world through love, which I thought was fascinating and really eye-opening. Another dimension, again, an opening of the mind of, oh, here's another way that we can experience Glorantha, and that was all exciting. But there's nothing about the city of Zoria and Frenella, and so
we'll just have to wait for your fan supplement to come out in escalation so that we can have some information on it.
There's information obviously in the guide, which is what I draw upon, and at least nothing that I wrote was contradicted.
There you go. So again, much like Lightbringers, I think the first person that I think this book is going to be really good for are GMs. I mean, just talking here right now, you can see how much culture and mystery is revealed in this book for expanding your games, and not just for player focused, right? The Cult of the Bloody Tusk was probably the cult that surprised me the most on how much I wanted to implement that information into my game. But also, if you're playing or have any interest in playing a member of an Earth cult, this book, maybe just on PDF if you're a player, because you're going to reference the beginning, the front matter where it's explaining, hey, here's a lot of the information about generalizations about the Earth cult, and then your specific information for your cult. But also, again, as a GM resource or as a Gloranthan scholar, because let's not pretend like they don't exist. Like there's a lot of us fans of Glorantha who just want to read and absorb and don't have the time in our schedule to run a RuneQuest game. This book is for you. Also, if you're just a fan of Gloranthan art, they knocked it just out of the park.
Yeah.
What do you think, Evan? Anything to...
Well, I just to add on the player focus, one of the things that is really clear from the book and the description is how tightly interconnected sort of the core of the Earth cults are. How many are associated cults, and So even if you are just playing, a particular cult, there's going to be sort of cross references,
Mm-hmm.
and a need to understand some of the other cults that will enrich your play and your understanding of your character and their interrelation with, particularly in Central Gendertella, where we
Mm-hmm.
frequently play, the sort of temple and religious social structure of, what is the responsibility of a Babeester Gore axe maiden towards followers of other allied and related faiths. That you're the daughter of vengeance, but what are you avenging, what are you protecting?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, it's all of these others, these innocent cults, these cults that provide important social uh, functions, and that have to be protected, and if violated must be avenged. And so it really deepens your understanding of that. And so I was impressed by um, how very fleshed out it all is, and what a complex and interesting picture it presents. And again, playable issues just sort of jump off of of the pages.
Oh yes, the ability to read this book and come away with a ton of adventure hooks. Uh, this is a wealth of information for any Glorantha GM. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. We're gonna again the reviews of the mythology and the future books. I went and looked. I have not done my mythology review yet. It's in the queue. Reviews of mythology as well as the subsequent Cults of RuneQuest book. That's going to be over on the behind the screen side, so you can see those when those come up. Next year, because this is our final episode for the year, we usually take the rest of December off, so well earned rest for the two of us. We're going to get back into our look at the temporal landscape of Glorantha. What's the name of the show again, Evan? And we're going to be looking at the Second Age. We're also going to start off. We had a question posed by one of our fans on why do we think that there's so much tribalism in the Gloranthan sphere, right? Uh, Sartorites versus Lunars. That one's easy because the Sartorites are right. Praxian, uh, Storm Cult versus Earth Cult versus Lunar Way. So we're also going to tackle that maybe as a small segment before we jump in. I don't know that's necessarily a full episode. We'll tackle that as we uh, like before we head into our Second Age uh, view. So to all of you who join us to explore Glorantha, thank you so much. Again, thank you for your patience as we were off and as we're kind of easing back into it. I really think 2024 is going to be the year where uh, my recovery has progressed to the point where we're back on track with exploring Glorantha. So Evan, as always, thank you so much for joining and exploring Glorantha with me and for keeping up in the comments. Like Evan, on exploring Glorantha, Evan is the one who responds to you. I was able to just offload that to him, and I'm very grateful for that because he's very interactive with our fans.
It's my pleasure to do so, and it is always my pleasure to be on this show and to explore Glorantha with you.
Well, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I'm JM, always here with my co host Evan, and we will see you all in January for some more Exploring Glorantha.